The morning was bitterly cold in New York. The streets were still damp from last night's rain. Gray clouds hanging low like a curtain of gloom over the Bronx. The city was already awake, cars honking, trains screeching in the distance, but for Amira Johnson, a 23-year-old cleaner, this was just another day of survival. She clutched a small paper bag with her breakfast, a plain bagel and a carton of milk, and walked quickly down the cracked sidewalk. Her shoes, bought from a thrift store 3 years ago, squeaked faintly with every step. The soles were thinning, and one lace had snapped weeks earlier, but she had tied it together with a knot and carried on. Her faded navy uniform hung neatly pressed, though frayed at the edges. For Amira, dignity mattered. She wanted to look professional when she reported for her shift at Liberty Towers Hotel, one of Manhattan's most glamorous addresses. But dignity, in a city like this, was fragile. As she reached the intersection near Harlem River Drive, a sudden roar shattered the morning calm. A white SUV with tinted windows shot out from the side street, tires slicing through a puddle so wide it looked like a small pond. Amira froze. It happened in less than a second. The wheels hit the water, and a wall of dirty brown mud erupted into the air, drenching her from head to toe. Her pressed uniform now clung to her body in patches of filth. Her breakfast bag ripped open, spilling soggy bread onto the sidewalk. Her hands trembled as icy water slid down her face and into her collar. The shock left her breathless. The SUV didn't stop. Instead, the tinted window lowered just enough to reveal a perfectly manicured hand, diamond rings glittering under the gray light. Behind the oversized sunglasses and bold red lipstick, a woman's smirk appeared. "Watch where you stand, girl," she jeered. Then she laughed, a high, sharp laugh that echoed like glass shattering, and the SUV sped off, leaving exhaust fumes and humiliation behind. Amira stood frozen for a moment, her lips trembling, her chest rising and falling fast. She wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Her eyes stung, but she refused to cry here, in the middle of the street where strangers might stare. With slow, deliberate movements, she picked up her ruined bag, wiped her face with the back of her hand, and kept walking. She didn't know it yet, but she wasn't entirely alone. Across the street, parked quietly in a sleek black sedan, sat Daniel Reed. To most of the city, he was an enigma, one of the youngest CEOs on Wall Street, a billionaire who avoided cameras, who never posted selfies, who preferred silence over spectacle. But Daniel's eyes saw everything that morning: the splash, the laugh, the way Amira's dignity cracked but didn't collapse. His jaw tightened. He recognized the woman in the SUV immediately: Madison Clark, heiress to the Clark real estate empire and one of Manhattan's most followed fashion influencers. Her social feeds were full of glossy penthouse views, designer clothes, and captions dripping with arrogance. Daniel had tolerated her vanity before, but this crossed a line. He pulled out his phone and dialed. "Find out who that girl is," he instructed calmly. "I want everything on her." His voice was level, but his eyes were sharp, narrowed with quiet fury. By the time Amira reached the staff entrance of Liberty Towers, the mud on her clothes had dried into stiff patches. She tried brushing it off, but the stains only smeared further. Her hair clung in damp curls around her face. She lowered her head, praying no one would notice. But Mr. O'Connor, the shift supervisor, noticed immediately. His frown was deep, his tone clipped. "You're late, Johnson. And what is this mess?" Amira opened her mouth. "Sir, I was..." "No excuses," he barked, waving his clipboard. "The lobby must shine before guests arrive. Get to work." Her words died in her throat. She nodded quickly, eyes lowered, and slipped past him into the supply closet. Her co-workers glanced at her from the hallway. Some shook their heads, some chuckled softly under their breath. None offered help. None asked if she was okay. Amira felt the weight of invisible walls pressing in, the walls of class, of color, of status. She was the cleaner, the girl from the Bronx. To them, she didn't matter. She changed into an old backup uniform that smelled faintly of bleach, tied her hair back into a bun, and pushed out her cart. The marble floors of Liberty Towers gleamed under chandeliers, worth more than her entire apartment building. She bent down, scrubbed, polished, wiped, moving like a machine, each motion efficient, practiced. invisible. But inside, her chest ached with shame. She thought of Malik, her little brother, still asleep in their cramped one-bedroom apartment. She thought of how she'd promised him a better life, how she worked 2 jobs and took night classes just to keep that promise alive. One more day, she told herself silently. Just get through one more day. Meanwhile, on the 40th floor of a glass tower downtown, Daniel Reed leaned back in his leather chair. His assistant entered quietly, dropping a file on the polished desk. Her name is Amira Johnson, 23, works here and at a diner on 145th Street. Lives in the Bronx. Mother passed 2 years ago. She's raising her younger brother alone. Daniel flipped the folder open. A small photo was clipped inside. Amira smiling softly beside Malik, his arm wrapped around her waist. The edges of the photo were slightly bent, as if handled often. Daniel stared at it for a long time. Then he tapped the image with one finger. She didn't deserve that, he murmured. His assistant hesitated. Do you want me to intervene? Daniel's gaze stayed on the picture. His jaw relaxed. Not yet, he said quietly. Let's watch a little longer. Far above the city, in her penthouse overlooking Central Park, Madison Clark sipped a green smoothie and admired her reflection in a gold-framed mirror. Her phone buzzed with endless notifications, fans, stylists, brand partners all demanding her time. She tilted her chin, adjusted her diamond necklace, and smiled at herself. That girl was standing too close to the road, she muttered, scrolling through her feed. She should be grateful I didn't drive over her toes. Her assistant laughed nervously. Madison smirked, satisfied, as though she had delivered some brilliant punchline. To her, the world was divided into winners and losers, and she was born to win. But down in the Bronx, a cleaner with muddy shoes was whispering a prayer under her breath, and in a downtown office, a billionaire was silently deciding her life was about to change. The Bronx never slept, but the mornings always felt heavier there. Rows of worn-out brick buildings leaned against each other like tired old men. The air smelled faintly of fried food, from last night's corner stands mixed with the metallic tang of subway tracks. Inside one of those apartments, on the 5th floor of a building with a flickering hallway light, Amira Johnson moved silently so she wouldn't wake her brother. The night before, after her muddy humiliation, she had scrubbed her only uniform in the sink, praying the stains would fade. They hadn't, so she laid it out to dry and pulled on her backup set again, stiff, faded, the color almost gray dot at the small table by the window. She carefully counted out dollars and coins into a stack. Rent was due in 3 days. Her chest tightened as she realized she would come up short again. She looked over at the small twin bed where Malik, 10 years old, still slept curled under a thin blanket. His backpack sat ready by the door, patched with duct tape where the zipper had broken. Amira touched his forehead gently. One day, I'll give you more than this, she promised silently. Meanwhile, downtown Manhattan glittered like a different planet. In a corner office overlooking the skyline, Daniel Reed sat with the file still open in front of him. He wasn't known for sentiment. On Wall Street, he had the reputation of a shark, a man who built his empire by outhinking competitors, not by pitying them. But something about Amira's picture had pierced through the armor. It wasn't just her smile, or the way she held Malik protectively in the photo. It was the resilience written in her eyes. Daniel tapped his pen against the desk. She works 2 jobs, studies at night, takes care of her brother, he murmured. His assistant, Maria, stood quietly nearby. Most people in her position break, Maria said softly. She hasn't, Daniel replied. And that's what makes her different. For a long moment, he said nothing else. Then he closed the file with a decisive snap. Keep watching her, he instructed, discreetly. I want to know how she moves, how she works, how she treats people. Don't let her know. Maria nodded, though curiosity flickered in her eyes. Why would a billionaire CEO care about a cleaner from the Bronx? She didn't dare ask. Back at Liberty Towers Hotel, Amira pushed her cleaning cart across the grand marble lobby. The crystal chandeliers overhead sparkled with a cold brilliance, casting rainbows on the polished floor. Guests walked by in tailored suits and designer dresses, not even glancing at the girl on her knees scrubbing scuff marks from the tile. Her supervisor, Mr. O'Connor, barked orders from across the hall. "Faster, Johnson. We've got a conference coming in. I want these floors spotless." "Yes, sir," she answered quietly, even though her wrists ached. Every movement was deliberate: wipe, wring, polish, repeat. Amira knew the drill: invisible service, perfect results. She never complained. Complaints didn't pay rent. But while the guests ignored her, someone else was watching. In a corner booth of the lobby cafe, a man in a dark suit sat with a newspaper, his face hidden behind the pages. From behind the paper, Daniel Reed's sharp eyes studied her. He saw the way she greeted every guest who accidentally looked her way with a smile, even when they didn't smile back. He saw how she picked up a child's drop toy without hesitation, placing it back gently in the toddler's hand before returning to her mop. He saw how her back straightened each time Mr. O'Connor snapped at her, pride refusing to let her crumble. Daniel lowered the paper slightly. A strange warmth flickered in his chest. He hadn't planned on feeling this. Across town, in her luxury penthouse, Madison Clark lounged on a white leather sofa, scrolling through her phone. The photo of Amira splashed with mud had not gone viral, but an anonymous post was spreading like wildfire. "Money doesn't erase manners." The caption was paired with a blurry image of a white SUV kicking up water on a city street. Thousands of comments flooded in. "Classic rich kid behavior. Disgusting. If you treat people like that, your money means nothing." Madison frowned, irritation flashing across her perfectly made-up face. "Who's spreading this nonsense?" she muttered. Her assistant, a nervous young woman named Chloe, cleared her throat. Maybe people just didn't like the way you handled it. Maybe an apology would calm things down." Madison laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. "Apologize? To a cleaner? To some nobody from the Bronx? Don't be ridiculous." She tossed her phone onto the couch. "I was born to win. They'll forget this tomorrow." But even as she said it, unease crawled at the back of her mind. By lunchtime, Amira slipped out the side door of the hotel and sat on a crate near the delivery entrance. She unwrapped her modest meal, half a peanut butter sandwich and a bottle of tap water. Her hands trembled slightly from exhaustion, but she ate slowly, savoring each bite. A man walked past, his footsteps echoing on the pavement. She barely glanced up, assuming it was another guest or staff member. But as he passed, Daniel Reed's eyes lingered on her. She didn't notice, but he did. He noticed the way she whispered a small prayer before taking her first bite, the way she looked toward the sky for strength even though she sat surrounded by concrete walls. He walked on, blending back into the city. But inside, a plan had begun to form. She doesn't know it yet, Daniel thought, but her story is about to change. That evening, Amira returned home to the Bronx. Malik rushed to greet her, throwing his arms around her waist. "Emmy," he cried, using the nickname he'd given her as a child. "Guess what? I got an A on my math quiz." Amira smiled despite her exhaustion, hugging him tightly. "That's amazing, Malik. I'm so proud of you." He looked up at her with wide eyes. "One day, you won't have to clean floors anymore, right?" Her smile faltered just a little. She smoothed his hair. "One day," she whispered. "One day, we'll have more." She didn't notice that outside, parked inconspicuously near the corner, the same black sedan sat once again. And inside, Daniel Reed watched the lights flicker on in her apartment window. Morning sunlight streamed through the towering glass windows of Madison Clark's penthouse, flooding the space with golden light. Everything in her home gleamed: white leather couches, polished marble counters, silver-framed mirrors. But the brightest object in the room was Madison herself. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting a diamond necklace, her long blonde hair cascading perfectly over her shoulders. Her phone buzzed constantly on the counter. Notifications popped up faster than she could swipe them away, messages from stylists, brand partners, and adoring fans. She smiled at her reflection. In her mind, she was untouchable, but the internet had other ideas. The night before, an anonymous account had posted a grainy photo of a white SUV splashing muddy water onto a pedestrian. The caption was simple, almost surgical in its sharpness: "Money doesn't erase manners." By morning, the post had exploded across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. People shared it with fury, stitching videos calling out rich privilege, pointing at Madison's feed. connecting dots that she desperately wished they wouldn't. This looks like her car. Didn't she post a selfie in that SUV last week? Influencer by day, bully by night. Thousands of comments tore through her carefully curated image. Madison's lips tightened as she scrolled. Who's behind this? She hissed. Who would dare smear me? Her assistant Chloe shifted nervously, holding a tablet. People, they're upset. Maybe if you just apologize? Madison snapped, spinning around. Her sunglasses glinted like a shield. To a cleaner? Some nobody from the Bronx. Don't be ridiculous. These people will forget tomorrow. They always do. But her voice carried a tremor. For the first time, she felt the walls of her empire crack. Meanwhile, across the city, Amira Johnson was sweeping the marble lobby of Liberty Towers. She moved silently, pushing her mop in smooth arcs. Guests in designer coats brushed past her as though she didn't exist. But even in invisibility, she carried herself with quiet dignity. She bent down to pick up a child's dropped stuffed bear, dusted it gently, and returned it with a smile. The toddler beamed. The parents didn't even say thank you. Her supervisor barked orders from across the hall. Faster, Johnson. Don't daydream. Yes, sir, she murmured, bowing her head. But someone noticed at a corner table in the lobby cafe. A man in a tailored black coat stirred his coffee slowly, watching through the reflection of a newspaper. Daniel Reed observed every detail, the way Amira's back straightened under pressure, the way she forced a smile to co-workers who whispered about her muddy uniform, the way she didn't crumble even when ignored. He had seen hundreds of employees, thousands of resumes, countless faces in boardrooms. But this quiet strength was rare. By noon, Amira slipped outside to the delivery entrance. She sat on a crate, opening her modest lunch, a plain sandwich and bottled water. She whispered a short prayer before eating, closing her eyes for just a second of peace. Daniel passed by casually, his coat collar turned up, blending in as just another businessman. He glanced at her, unnoticed, but the image seared into his mind. A young woman fighting battles no one else saw, clinging to dignity when the world tried to strip it away. He walked on, but the decision forming in his heart grew stronger. Across social media, the storm around Madison worsened. Influencer watchdog accounts picked up the SUV post, comparing timestamps from Madison's own Instagram stories. Someone zoomed into a blurry reflection in the car window, circling her diamond earrings. It's her. 100%. Within hours, hashtags trended, hashtag money can't buy manners, and hashtag justice for the cleaner. Madison slammed her phone onto the counter. This is ridiculous. These trolls can't touch me. But her voice was high, strained. She took a sip of her smoothie and nearly choked when Chloe read the latest headline aloud. Clark Heiress accused of bullying Bronx cleaner. Madison's manicured fingers tightened around her glass until it nearly cracked. I won't let some nobody ruin me, she muttered. Back at Liberty Towers, Amira finished her shift. Her hands were raw from bleach, her back sore from bending. But she still managed to smile at Malik when she returned home that night. Emmy, he shouted, waving his school report card. I got A B+ in English. Amira hugged him tightly. That's amazing, Malik. You're smarter than me already. He grinned. One day, you won't have to clean floors anymore, right? Her smile wavered. She smoothed his hair. One day, she whispered. She didn't know that at that very moment, in a skyscraper downtown, Daniel Reed sat with her file again, tapping the photo of her and Malik. She deserves better, he murmured. And maybe, I can give her that chance. That night, Madison stood on her balcony, wine glass in hand, glaring at the city skyline. Her phone buzzed again, another anonymous email. She opened it, and her blood ran cold. Attached was a clearer photo of the mud splash, this time from a different angle. The caption read only, "We saw you." For the first time, Madison's confidence faltered. She looked out at the glittering city lights, suddenly feeling exposed. As if the whole world had turned against her, she whispered to herself, "Who's doing this to me?" But across the city, in a quiet Bronx apartment, Amira knelt beside Malik's bed, whispering a prayer for strength. And in a darkened office downtown, Daniel Reed leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed, already planning the next move. Because while Madison clung to false glow, Daniel saw something far brighter, the real light of a woman who refused to break. The morning air in Manhattan carried the sharp bite of early spring. For most, it was refreshing. For Amira Johnson, it was just another reminder of how thin her jacket was and how little money she had left until payday. She pulled it tighter around herself as she hurried into the side entrance of Liberty Towers Hotel. Clutching her small second-hand backpack, she expected the same routine: clock in, nod to indifferent co-workers, endure her supervisor's sharp tone, and disappear into the endless rhythm of scrubbing, mopping, and polishing. But that morning, something was different. When Amira opened her locker in the dim staff room, she froze. Inside was a small bouquet of lilies, wrapped in crisp white paper. No card, no name, just flowers. Her fingers hovered over them, hesitant. She looked around, but her co-workers were busy changing into uniforms or gossiping in the corner. No one paid her any attention. Slowly, almost shyly, she lifted the bouquet to her nose. The fragrance was light, clean, almost surreal in this bleach-scented room. For a moment, her tired heart fluttered. Who would do this? Up in the lobby cafe, hidden behind a newspaper once again, Daniel Reed watched. He saw her surprise, the way her lips parted, the faint blush rising in her cheeks. He didn't smile, he rarely did, but something in his chest eased. He wasn't ready to reveal himself. Not yet, but he wanted her to feel, if only for a moment, that she wasn't invisible. By midday, Amira moved through her tasks with a lighter step. Even her supervisor's usual grumbling couldn't fully crush the warmth she carried. From that simple gift, she polished mirrors, straightened cushions, and mopped floors as if each motion mattered. Because maybe, just maybe, someone had seen her. But across town, in her glittering penthouse, Madison Clark was unraveling. Her assistant Chloe entered nervously, holding up a tablet. Madison, the photo. It's spreading again. Now blogs are covering it. They're saying you mocked a cleaner. Madison snatched the device. Headlines screamed at her. Clark Heiress in SUV scandal. When luxury turns ugly. Money without manners. Madison Clark's mess. Her cheeks burned. This is ridiculous. People envy me, that's all. But Chloe hesitated. Madison, brands are calling. They're concerned. Madison's diamond-clad hand tightened around the tablet. They wouldn't dare drop me. My father. But her voice faltered. Because she knew, deep down, even her father's empire couldn't scrub this stain easily. That evening, Amira dragged her weary body home to the Bronx. Malik greeted her at the door, holding up a paper airplane. Look, Emmy, I made it fly all the way to the couch. She laughed, hugging him tightly. You're going to be an engineer one day, Malik, or a pilot. He grinned. She tucked him into bed later that night, whispering prayers over him. But when she finally lay down herself, staring at the cracked ceiling, her thoughts returned to the flowers. No one had ever done something like that for her. She didn't know who or why, but the memory made her feel seen. The next morning, Amira was summoned to the hotel manager's office. Her heart dropped instantly. Had she done something wrong? Was she about to be fired? She knocked softly. Come in, a deep voice called. She stepped inside and froze. Behind the polished desk wasn't just the manager, it was a man she had never seen before. Impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, his presence filled the room with quiet authority. His gaze, sharp yet calm, landed on her. Miss Johnson, he said evenly. Please, have a seat. Her knees felt weak. She perched on the edge of the chair, clutching her hands together. The man slid a folder across the desk toward her. This is for you. Confused, she opened it. Her eyes widened. Inside were documents, stamped with the seal of a prestigious hospitality institute. A scholarship, full tuition, training that could open doors she'd only dreamed about. Her lips parted, but no sound came. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? The man studied her for a long moment. His voice was calm, steady. Because you've earned it. Her heart pounded in her chest. She tried to protest. But I'm just a cleaner. I can't. You can, he interrupted gently. And you will. Amira's eyes blurred with sudden tears. She blinked quickly, embarrassed. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, he said quietly. Just keep being who you are. when she left the office, clutching the folder like a lifeline. Her co-workers stared. Whispers rippled through the staff room. What's that? Did she get promoted? Why her? Amira ignored them, her hands trembling as she tucked the folder safely into her bag. For the first time in years, hope felt real. But on the other side of the city, Madison's fury boiled over. She had just received a call from her father's legal team, warning her to keep a low profile until the SUV story cooled down. She slammed her phone onto the marble counter, pacing like a caged animal. And then she saw it. A headline flashing across her feed. Bronx cleaner awarded scholarship after hotel incident. Her stomach twisted. She clicked the article, and there it was, a blurred photo of Amira in her uniform, smiling faintly as she left the hotel. The story praised her resilience, her work ethic, her quiet dignity. Madison's face flushed crimson. No, she hissed. No, this is not happening. She's a nobody. She cleans floors. She doesn't get to win. Her assistant Chloe looked uneasy. Maybe this is good, Madison. Maybe you should let it go before it gets worse. Let it go. Madison snapped, her eyes blazing. While she steals my spotlight? While the world paints me as a villain and her as some Cinderella? She turned toward the window, glaring out at the skyline as if it had betrayed her. No, if she thinks she's won, she's dead wrong. That night, as Amira placed the scholarship documents on the small kitchen table in her Bronx apartment, Malik stared in awe. What's this? He asked. Her voice shook with emotion. It means, maybe one day soon, I won't just clean hotels. I'll manage them. Malik's eyes widened. He flung his arms around her. See? I told you, good things happen. Amira buried her face in his hair, tears slipping down her cheeks. For once, she let herself believe it. But outside, in the glittering towers of Manhattan, Madison Clark's envy was curdling into something darker. Because for Amira, the turning point had just begun. And for Madison, so had the war. The buzz of the Bronx was never silent, but that morning, the noise outside Amira's window seemed louder than ever. She woke early, washed her face with cold tap water, and stared at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. For once, there was something new in her eyes. Hope. The scholarship papers lay safe inside her backpack, folded neatly like treasure. She wanted to believe things were finally turning. That maybe, after years of back-breaking work and silence, her life was about to open a new door. But fate had other plans. At Liberty Towers, Amira kept her head down, cleaning the hallways, ignoring the whispers that followed her. Some co-workers sneered. Others muttered enviously about the teacher's pet scholarship. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, she felt strong enough to walk past their stares. But by lunchtime, everything changed. Her phone buzzed with dozens of notifications. At first she ignored it, until a co-worker shoved a phone screen in her face. Hey Johnson, this your dad? Amira froze. On the screen was a breaking headline. Cleaner turned scholarship star estranged from father. He speaks out. The photo hit harder than any insult. A man in his late 50s, eyes weary but sharp, sat in a diner booth, speaking into a microphone. The caption beneath read, James Davis, my daughter cut me off after she met her billionaire. She forgot her family. Amira's blood ran cold. James Davis, her father, the man who had walked out when she was 10, leaving her mother to raise two kids alone. The man who never answered when Amira begged for help during hospital nights, when her mother coughed herself to sleep. The man who let her die without ever showing up. Now he was on TV, spinning himself as a victim. Across town, in a corner office high above Wall Street, Daniel Reed watched the broadcast on his tablet. His jaw tightened with every word James spoke. She forgot us, James crooned to the camera. We struggled, and she left us behind. Now she pretends she's better than her own blood. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He didn't slam the tablet, didn't raise his voice. Instead, he picked up the phone. Schedule a press conference, he said calmly. Maria, his assistant, hesitated. Sir, the optics, schedule it. His voice brooked no argument. That evening, Amira sat frozen at her kitchen table, Malik's small hands tugging at her sleeve. Emmy, what's going on? Why are people saying bad things? Her voice cracked. It's just noise, Malik. Don't listen. But inside, her heart was breaking. She had fought so hard to rise above the past, and now the past was clawing her back into the mud. Then her phone buzzed again. A new notification. She opened it and gasped. On the screen was a live clip of Daniel Reed standing at a podium, surrounded by flashing cameras. His voice was steady, sharp as steel. Amira Johnson is not a gold digger, he said firmly. She is one of the hardest working, most honest women I've ever met. If anyone questions her worth, they should question what they value more, money or character. The crowd erupted in murmurs, then applause. Cameras flashed wildly. Daniel's words spread instantly across social media. Within minutes, hashtags like #stand with Amira trended nationwide. Amira covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Malik cheered. See, Emmy, he believes in you. But not everyone was cheering. At her penthouse, Madison Clark watched the press conference replay with clenched fists. She paced the marble floor, wine glass trembling in her hand. He's defending her. Publicly, she hissed. He's supposed to be on my level, not hers. Her assistant Chloe shifted nervously. Madison, maybe this is going too far. Maybe you should, quiet. Madison snapped. Her eyes burned with fury. If she thinks she's untouchable because Daniel Reed said her name, she's wrong. I won't let some Bronx girl steal my spotlight. She turned toward the window, voice low and venomous. If James Davis wants to talk, maybe I should help him. 2 days later, Amira was summoned again to the hotel manager's office. She braced herself for more humiliation, but instead she found Daniel waiting for her. He rose as she entered, his tall frame commanding the room. Miss Johnson, he greeted. Please, sit. Her hands shook as she lowered herself into the chair. Mr. Reed, I don't know why you, because you deserve better, he interrupted, his tone calm but unyielding. I've seen how you work, how you carry yourself. That isn't luck. That isn't charity. That's character. Amira blinked, stunned. But my father. People think your father abandoned you, Daniel said bluntly. You don't owe him your life or your story. Don't let him steal it back now. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to explain, but the words wouldn't come. For the first time, someone was telling her exactly what she had always needed to hear. That she wasn't broken. That she wasn't wrong for cutting ties. Daniel leaned forward slightly. The world is watching now. Don't shrink. Stand taller. For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy but charged. Amira finally nodded, a spark of strength igniting behind her tired eyes. That night, Madison received an email from an unknown sender. Subject, you hate her. So do I. Let's talk. Her breath quickened as she read it. At the bottom was a single initial, J. Her lips curled into a smile. James Davis, she whispered. Perfect. In the Bronx, Amira tucked Malik into bed, kissing his forehead. He smiled up at her, unbothered by the chaos swirling around their names. You're the best, Emmy, he said sleepily. No matter what they say. She held him a little longer than usual, tears pricking her eyes, because deep down, she knew the storm was far from over, and somewhere across the city, to bitter hearts, her father and Madison Clark were already plotting her fall. The city lights glowed like scattered jewels across Manhattan. But for Amira Johnson, the night felt suffocating. Each headline seemed sharper than the last. Cleaner or climber? Who is Amira Johnson really? From Bronx to billionaire's favor, is it fair? Family betrayed. James Davis speaks again. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with alerts. But she couldn't bring herself to read more. Malik sat at the table, doing his math homework, humming softly. She forced a smile for his sake. Yet inside, she was breaking. At the same time, in a dim lounge tucked away in the Upper East Side, two unlikely allies shared a drink. Madison Clark leaned back on a velvet chair, her eyes glittering with malice. Across from her sat James Davis, his face lined with age and bitterness, a whiskey glass in his hand. She took everything from me, James muttered. Her respect, her loyalty. I gave her life, and she cut me off like I was nothing. Madison smirked. And she took my spotlight. Together, we can take it back. James narrowed his eyes. What's in it for you? Revenge, Madison replied simply. swirling her wine. She made me a villain online. I won't forgive that. You want her destroyed. So do I. We just need the right stage. James nodded slowly. Then let's make sure she doesn't get back up. The very next morning, Amira walked into Liberty Towers only to be met with silence. Co-workers who once gossiped now avoided her entirely. Management looked at her as though she were radioactive. She soon found out why. A massive data leak had rocked the hotel industry. Sensitive client lists, contracts, and internal files had been exposed online, and someone had slipped Amira's name into the mess, accusing her of being the insider leak who sold information for money. Her hands trembled as she read the memo posted on the staff board. Investigations ongoing. Employees under suspicion. Reputations at stake. Her heart sank. This isn't me, she whispered. But whispers already spread like wildfire. She had help from Reed. Maybe she sold him info. Maybe she's playing both sides. In his office, Daniel Reed read the same leak report with a stone face. His board of directors sat stiffly round the table, their voices sharp. She's dragging your name into this mess, one said. Our brand stands for exclusivity, another added. A hotel cleaner tied to scandal. It doesn't sell elegance. Daniel's jaw tightened. You're suggesting I abandon her. The room fell silent. Finally, one man cleared his throat. We're suggesting you protect the company. Daniel's voice was low, deliberate. The company is nothing without integrity, and integrity means standing with the truth. For a moment, no one spoke, but Daniel knew the war had moved into his house. That night, Amira stood on stage at the Hospitality Futures Gala, her palms damp with fear. This was supposed to be her moment of recognition, a chance to prove herself. But with the rumors swirling, she felt the weight of every skeptical gaze. She stepped to the microphone. Her voice shook at first, but then steadied. Good evening. My name is Amira Johnson. Not long ago, I scrubbed the floors of this building. Tonight, I stand here not because I was rescued, but because someone saw me as human. Dignity isn't about money. It's about how you treat others. Gasps rippled through the audience. Cameras flashed. Some clapped softly. Others exchanged doubtful looks. In the corner, Madison and James watched with narrowed eyes. Madison's smile was razor thin. She thinks speeches will save her, she whispered. Let's see how strong she is when her brother is dragged into this. Back in the Bronx later that week, Amira walked Malik to school, holding his hand tightly. He skipped beside her, humming the same tune from his homework night. She kissed his forehead at the gate. Be good today, she said. You too, Emmy, he grinned. Before running off, her phone buzzed as she walked away. A text, no name. Just words that made her blood run cold. You protect him. But can you protect him all the time? Her knees went weak. Her heart pounded as she looked round the street. A black car idled at the corner. The window lowered slightly, just enough for her to see a familiar face. James. He smirked. Then the car rolled away. Panic clawed at Amira's chest. She rushed to Daniel's office that afternoon, shoving the message across his desk. He's threatening Malik, she cried. This is because of me. I should have stayed invisible. Daniel looked at the message, then at her. His eyes, usually calm, blazed with fury. This isn't your fault, he said firmly. He walked away years ago. He doesn't get to come back as a wrecking ball. Tears spilled down her cheeks. But Malik, Daniel reached across the desk, covering her trembling hands with his own. Then I'll protect him. You've carried the world on your back. Let me carry this with you. Amira's chest heaved with emotion. For the first time, she let herself believe she wasn't fighting alone. But across the city, in a penthouse filled with shadows, Madison raised her glass with James. To the fall of Cinderella, she said with a grin. James smirked. And to the lesson she's about to learn. You can't erase blood. Their glasses clinked, and as the city sparkled outside their windows, the darkness inside them grew stronger. Because for Amira, the storm was no longer just about reputation. Now, it was about survival. The sun rose sharp and bright over New York, but Amira Johnson felt no warmth that morning. Her chest carried the weight of fear, heavier than bleach buckets or marble floors. She clutched Malik's hand as they walked down the Bronx sidewalk toward school, every step measured, every glance over her shoulder deliberate. Malik, innocent as always, hummed a tune, swinging his backpack. "Emmy, why are you walking so fast?" She forced a smile. "Because I want you to get the best seat in class." But her eyes scanned the street corners, the parked cars, the faces of strangers. She couldn't shake the memory of James's smirk from the car window, or the chilling text, "Can you protect him all the time?" Her heart whispered the answer she couldn't admit out loud. No, not alone. That afternoon, Amira's phone buzzed again as she mopped the hotel lobby. She wiped her hands nervously before looking. "Unknown number, don't worry. We'll take good care of Malik." Her vision blurred. The mop clattered to the floor. She bolted toward the staff room, dialing Daniel with shaking fingers. He answered on the second ring. "Amira, they've got him," she gasped. "My brother Malik, he's gone." For the first time, Daniel's voice broke its calm rhythm. "Where are you? Stay put. I'm sending my team." Minutes later, black SUV screeched to a halt outside the hotel. Daniel's private security team swarmed in, headsets crackling. Amira stood frozen, clutching the text message, her breath ragged. "Ma'am, we'll find him," the lead guard assured, guiding her into the vehicle. Daniel was already inside, his jaw set, his eyes burning with controlled fury. He reached for her trembling hand. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "We will get him back. I swear to you." Amira's tears spilled over. "He's just a child, Daniel. He's all I have." "Then he's all I have to," Daniel replied. Within minutes, traffic cameras across the Bronx lit up Daniel's command center. Plates were traced, routes mapped. Finally, a signal locked onto a black sedan heading north. "They're taking him toward the industrial district," one guard said. "Intercept," Daniel ordered. The SUV roared down the freeway, cutting through traffic like blades. Amira clutched the seat, her heart pounding so loudly she thought it might shatter her ribs. Finally, they reached a deserted lot near the river. The sedan sat idling, its back door cracked open. "Malik!" Amira screamed. Her brother stumbled out, wide-eyed, as James Davis yanked him by the arm. "Stay back!" James roared. "She belongs to me. She's my blood, and she'll learn it the hard way." But before he could move again, security guards surged forward. James tried to run, but he was tackled, cuffed, and slammed against the hood. "Let me go," he bellowed. "She owes me. She owes me everything." Amira fell to her knees, wrapping her arms around Malik. He sobbed into her shoulder, trembling. She whispered over and over, "You're safe now. You're safe." Daniel stood nearby, his eyes locked on James. "You abandoned her when she needed you most. You don't get to call yourself her father." James spat on the ground, his face twisted. "She'll regret this. Both of you will." But his voice was drowned out by the click of handcuffs. The following week, Amira stood on stage again, this time not as a suspect, not as a victim, but as a voice. The Cole Estates Transparency Gala buzzed with cameras and flashing lights. The city wanted to hear her. She stepped up to the microphone, her posture straight, her voice steady. "2 years ago, I scrubbed hotel floors. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't invisible. But to the world, I didn't matter. Today, I stand here not because I chased wealth, but because I held on to dignity." To anyone who feels unseen, know this: your worth is not defined by those who step on you. It is defined by how you rise when they do. The room erupted in applause. Guests stood, clapping, some even wiping tears. In the corner, Madison Clark watched. Her makeup flawless, her smile brittle. She had expected Amira to crumble under scandal, to vanish back into obscurity. Instead, she was rising higher than ever. Madison's phone buzzed. A brand partner's message lit the screen. "We're suspending your contract pending review." Her fingers trembled. For the first time, her empire was slipping. She forced a smile, but it cracked under the weight of defeat. Later that night, back in the Bronx, Amira and Malik sat on the rooftop of their building. String lights borrowed from a neighbor glowing faintly round them. The city skyline glittered in the distance, but tonight it felt less intimidating, almost soft. Malik leaned against her shoulder. "Emmy, does this mean we're finally okay?" She wrapped an arm around him. "It means we survived, Malik, and now we can live." A familiar figure stepped onto the rooftop. Daniel, in a simple black suit, no tie, his eyes warm for once. He looked at them, sister and brother, and for the first time, his smile was unguarded. "You've carried the world on your shoulders long enough, Amira," he said gently. "Let me carry some of it with you." Her eyes glistened. For years, she had fought to prove she wasn't invisible. Tonight, she realized she didn't need to fight alone anymore. Across town, Madison sat in her penthouse, staring at the city lights she once believed bowed to her. Now they mocked her with their indifference. She poured another glass of wine, but it didn't taste like victory. It tasted like ashes that she whispered bitterly into the empty room. Cinderella won't last forever. But deep down, she knew the truth. Amira's light wasn't fading. It was just beginning. Weeks later, Amira stood at a podium once again, this time, not at a gala, but at a small school in the Bronx. She spoke to children who looked at her with wide, hopeful eyes. Malik sat proudly in the front row. "I once thought my story ended in mud," she told them. "But mud can grow flowers, and from the darkest places, you can bloom." The children clapped, and Amira's heart swelled, because she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was shining.